Hey everyone, Mystical Mark here. So this will be your intuitive astrology forecast for the week of December 28th, 2025 to January 3rd of 2026. In this video, I will intuitively tune into my own higher self to get the overall energetic vibes for each major and minor aspects, well, most of the minor aspects that will be occurring this week. Of course, what I do here is called mundane astrology. This is not an all signs or sun sign forecast because my guidance has been that is just simply not accurate. If you want something that's going to be personal for you, you need to get a personal reading and something that encompasses your entire chart and not just a teensy-tiny little fraction of it. Okay, that all being said, I do of course offer personal readings. If you go on to mysticalmark.ca, over to my website there, and everything is there. It's also all in the description below. I am still currently offering until December 31st of 2025 50% off all readings if you use the code HOLIDAY at checkout, so that is still available if there's still quantities there, as of course, you know, I am limited in the amount that I can do, but if there's still quantities available, that offer is still there for anyone that wishes to get that. Okay, so again, what I do here is mundane astrology. Mundane astrology is, of course, how the astrology affects us all, whether that's globally, politically, economically, that kind of stuff. All right. Now, of course, as I say at the beginning of all of my videos as well, my guidance has been and likely always will be astrology is an energetic template conducive to certain things, meaning that, excuse me, meaning that the analogy that they gave me is like a math formula. Okay, so there's variables that exist within that formula, and we have the free will to adjust those variables. Okay. Also, what I do here is intuitive, meaning that whatever I come through regarding any kind of future predictions is always just from this I'm getting it from this vantage point forward. So for what I'm getting now is basically the plan, if you will, according that could happen if I make future predictions like that. All right. And of course, that is always subject to change due to free will. That goes for absolutely any intuitive reading from anyone. It is always subject to change due to free will, no matter what. You may have an end goal in mind, but remember there's multiple paths to get there, okay, depending on what obstacles may show up in your way. Or no obstacles, all right? And of course, at the end of this video, I'll also tune into an overall energy, the main energy for the week, all right? Okay, with that all being said, we can jump into the charts here. I know you can see it, but I can't yet. Bring it to me. There we go. Okay, so we're going to start here, obviously on Sunday, December 28th. However, according to my little list here, there is nothing that's really peaking on this day, so we're going to move to Monday the 29th. Now, what I do this is on the days that the transits are peaking. Of course, this doesn't mean that what I say specifically about them is going to happen specifically on that day, simply because there's like a waxing period as a build-up towards that peak and then a waning period. That energy is still viable within those periods before and after that, basically the maximum or the point where they peak, right? So just be mindful of that. I could say it, but it could be a few days before, a few days after, in which these things can still have an effect or could occur. Okay? First on my list here, let's actually look at, we're going to have the asteroid Juno here, which will move into Capricorn. Okay, still at 29 degrees of Sagittarius here, because this is set early in the morning, but will move into Capricorn. Let's see what the time is, 8:40 a.m. Central. Okay, so let me just tune in here. So Juno moving into Capricorn. It feels, what I feel is boundaries being set towards, or you could almost say like against, certain partnerships, commitments, contracts, etc. It's almost like being like, no, we're not going to do this anymore, or no, this was the commitment, but we're not going to do this anymore, that kind of a thing. It's setting an appropriate boundary. It feels like strong boundaries against like negative stuff, even if we don't see it that way, okay? And I've said this in previous videos. We may not see it as full. We may not fully see things for what they actually are, because there's a lot more going on than what we see. Okay, so that's kind of the vibe of that. I'm feeling not to go into any more depth than that, other than it feels like larger, like political figures, that kind of stuff, setting boundaries, or even like economic boundaries, etc., against certain commitments, partnerships, and just simply saying, no, we're not doing this anymore. It's almost like a dissolving of those things based on putting your foot down, so to speak. Okay, also on this day, we're going to have, and I'm feeling this is somehow related in some way, Mars is going to be aspecting the nodes. So we're going to sextile the North Node here, Mars in Capricorn sextile the North Node, and trine the South Node in Virgo. Now, what I feel is this is related, as Mars is that action step, and of course it's also in Capricorn, where we're taking actions to do those, what I feel is almost like to set those boundaries, to take action towards those things. And this is relating to our movement. I feel a stronger connection to the South Node. It is relating to this movement forward, but what it is it's setting boundaries to those old things that is not actually serving us any longer. Okay, so there's actions being taken here towards, or like I said, kind of pushing against those old things to, so pay attention when I pay attention to that. So putting boundaries against those things to say, no, we are not dealing with this or not doing this stuff anymore. There's a new plan. However, that plan, it feels like it's not, what it feels like is there's not a full, it exists fully, but there isn't an awareness fully for those that are maybe paying attention to this kind of a thing. It just feels like we're just seeing this, the boundary being set towards the old practical stuff that is not serving us any longer. Okay, so that would be Monday the 29th. Let's move on here to Tuesday the 30th. And of course, on this day, we're going to have Mercury here, still in Sagittarius, in square to Saturn. Okay, what do we got? Mercury in Sagittarius and square to Saturn. What I get is it feels somewhat argumentative, but it's like, again, it feels like pushing this. Okay, this is a bit odd, but it's putting a boundary so that growth and expansion can occur. What I'm getting is with this Saturn in Pisces, there's a dissolution of that malefic energy through setting a boundary towards old ways of control, old ways of things. This is all the multiple facets of Saturn with that. And in doing so, allows for almost what it feels like is what I'm getting is open communication, more open communication about things to grow and expand in new areas. But there's definitely, it feels like almost like something heated, whether it's a heated argument or something that is just said to set a boundary in some way to allow that growth and expansion to occur. But that boundary is set against negative things that are basically not serving us, even if we may not see it that way or if it's not shown to us in that way. Okay? And that's all I've got for Tuesday the 30th. So let's have a look here then. We'll move on to Wednesday the 31st. And we're going to have Mercury here again, and it's going to be in quincunx to Uranus. So what I got here, what it feels like again is stuff that should have already changed. Should have already moved forward, should have already changed. And there's a frustration here, but there's communication and growth through that communication, etc., surrounding this stuff now, but it should have happened before. And that's what I feel the frustration with that quincunx is. Again, and I've said this in previous videos as well, surrounding a lot of aspects around this time. It feels like there is stuff that should have already happened before that didn't. And now it is frustrating that we're having to deal with it now because it should have already have been done. I feel with that Uranus retrograde in Taurus, these big shifts and changes, but again, that retrograde energy going over those old ground, those old spaces, being like, hey, this is the stuff that we have had to change Okay, and with Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, that aspect of change, of progress, okay, that needs to be made, needs to occur. Okay, and that's the only thing for Wednesday the 31st here as well. Okay, so let's move on to Thursday, January 1st, 2026, and there's a lot more that's going on today for sure. So first thing, we're going to have Mercury, which will make its ingress into Capricorn. All right, so let me just tune into this here, Mercury and Capricorn. It feels like a lot more harsh communication, arguments, setting of boundaries in a lot of ways, and being a bit more like straight. I want to say straightforward, but in terms of like saying no, setting boundaries, that kind of stuff. And again, this is mundane astrology, so this is coming, for what I'm getting is this is coming from like politicians, those on that kind of a level that are now saying no to things, that are standing their ground, that are setting boundaries in place, etc., with that kind of stuff. All right, so I feel like there's more of an intensity surrounding that, and a very strong, almost what it feels like, almost like a masculine energy that is saying no, even though Capricorn is technically a feminine energy. I feel like what I'm seeing are like, what I see as male politicians, but I'm getting that that gender of which the vision that I'm seeing doesn't really matter. It's just the vision that they're giving me to give me context. But it is, what I'm just seeing is someone speaking out, saying, like, setting a boundary, like almost like calling things out and setting a direct boundary. I think the word direct is very kind of pertinent, prominent here. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about that. We're also going to have this Mercury in this quintile to the North Node in Pisces. Okay, I feel like now what I'm getting is that is related to stuff that is hidden behind the scenes, that is working towards a new path forward, that is very positive, feels very positive, but that we don't see. But what we're seeing is the vocalization of putting the foot down, setting the boundaries, etc. What we're not seeing is the workings behind the scenes that are saying to do that, which is allowing movement forward to then happen and occur in ways that we don't see or don't fully understand. Okay, we're also going to have, on this day, we're going to have Mars here in sesquisquare to Uranus. I feel a very angry vibe with this. I feel very strongly with some, it feels like with their political figures or whatever, really being angry, speaking out in an angry way, putting their foot down regarding something that needs to change, regarding shifts and changes that need to occur, like right fucking now is what it feels like, and they're really fucking mad about it. Remember that sesquisquare is like a super square that pushes for resolution, right? So this anger, this taking action in that sense and speaking out with that Capricornian is like, right? And regarding those aspects of change that really need to occur, because what I feel with this is, with this Uranus retrograde, that again, it's these old things that really should have already changed, and it's like we gotta do this now. Like, people are getting pissed off about it. It needs to happen now. Like, that sesquisquare is something that can't be swept under the rug any longer, needs to be taken care of, action needs to be taken, things need to be said, etc. Okay, we're also going to have the Sun here now in trine to the South Node and sextile to the North Node. Okay, this again is what I feel is pushing more towards the South Node energy, and what we need to focus on to let go, like we could almost to say we can't do this anymore. And it's what I feel is highlighting that Capricornian aspect of setting boundaries to what we should no longer be doing and saying no to those things. What it feels like is more of an awareness of anything. that either is occurring or needs to occur with that, and it ultimately lights the path towards this new progress going forward into a completely unknown direction. What I get with this is something that I haven't gotten before, is that we're not fully seeing this direction forward with the North Node in Pisces is only known by very few people at this point, but it feels very positive. But if you're tuned in well enough or intuitive enough to recognize and see what is really actually going on here, you will know and understand what that direction is. It's just with Pisces, it's not visible. It's the aspect of deception, but this is a negative deception. This is like, it feels like there may be an aspect of it's not being shown because certain facets or people or whatever don't want it to be shown, but that's not going to last very long. Okay, I feel like that's very much short-lived, and there's going to be at some point where we will see the changes. What I'm getting is with that North Node, which will come into Aquarius, that then we're going to really begin to see the progress or the new path forward with that. For whatever reason, I'm being told that now at this point, but that is something that is what I'm getting with that right now. Okay, we're also going to have Mercury here, which will be in square to Neptune in Pisces. What I get is there's a hidden force that is pushing for to say certain things, to speak out about certain things, whatever. It ultimately, this force is positive, but what I feel is it saying it in a way that's almost deceptive, but not in a bad deceptive. It's in a good deceptive. So like I said, we're not really seeing or truly understanding what it is that's actually going on, but people are pushed to say these things, but because it's something that needs to be said, because whatever is hidden it's something that is so good, it needs to remain hidden so it doesn't get tainted with. So there's certain things that have to be said or dealt with in certain ways so that that progress does not get hindered in whatever way. Okay, so that's Thursday. And again, this is New Year's Day, so what I feel is like a lot of this stuff isn't going to directly happen on this day. I feel like it's pushed to Friday, to be honest. We're going to get some of it the day before on the 31st, and then it's going to get pushed into Friday afterwards, considering this is a holiday in most places of the world. Okay, so, but these energies aren't stopping. Like, it doesn't stop for anyone just because we all sit on our ass at home all day on the 1st. Well, not everyone. There's a lot of people that do have to go to work now and stuff, but just because a lot of the higher level stuff in the world technically stops doesn't mean that this stops, or doesn't mean that that is actually really stopping. Okay, there's still stuff that is going on. It's just we won't really see it or notice maybe any of this stuff unless it's the day before or the day after. Okay, so let's move on to Friday the 2nd here. This is when we're going to have Chiron coming direct. So it's not going to get to go direct until later in the morning, but I have this chart set early, but it will, even though it's still showing retrograde here. So Chiron will go direct. What I initially feel with this is a lot more healing in terms of, I almost wanted to say peace, because Chiron is obviously in Aries, which can relate to Mars, war, but it's also what I feel with that is sovereignty, independence, that kind of thing, but a more positive, higher level of that is achieved through higher level things, such as talking and working things out instead of fighting each other. So it's almost like healing that war wound, but in a lot of ways it's healing through, I want to say through, healing through peace, or healing peace, healing through peace, that kind of a thing, right? That's what I feel with that, and there's going to be more progress, what I feel going forward with this Chiron direct. It's like with the retrograde, it's kind of looking at these things, thinking we have to deal with it. Now with it moving direct, it's like more so we're moving forward in a more peaceful direction. It's like those who are fiery about war and stuff, it feels like it's going to settle or calm down a bit more, or quite a lot more, with that Chiron direct, okay? Also on this day, we're going to have Venus here, which will be in trine to the south node and sextile to the north node. Okay, so what I feel is in previous videos, I don't remember which one, I talked about with Venus and Capricorn boundaries being set to maybe oust certain people and bring new people in. These new people are now still setting those boundaries towards those old people. And what this is I feel like this strength here in pushing the old stuff away, it is not serving us to allow this newer path forward to occur. But it feels like it's more of a, you can see it, but it's not necessarily, it's more so on the back burner than on the front burner, okay? It's there, but we're seeing it happen, but I just feel like people aren't paying attention to it. It's kind of what that really feels like, even though it's there and it's happening. All right. We're also going to have, where are we here? Juno, which will be in semi-sextile to Black Moon Lilith. And we're also going to have Mercury as well in semi-sextile to that Black Moon Lilith energy, which is now in Sagittarius. So, I'm just trying to articulate this Black Moon Lilith energy. It feels like more of a coming together through countries globally instead of being outcasted. Like there's more of a connection with that. So instead of being outcasted, it's more of coming together. Okay, I feel like maybe that's more of with the Juno, that aspect of partnership. Okay, no, I'm getting feeling a no with that. I'm just feeling that with Black Moon Lilith energy in general. Okay, so what is with the Juno part of it? Okay, there's new partnerships that are being created because of that, through that semi-sextile. And now there's more communication that is occurring because of that, with that Mercury semi-sextile. But what I feel with that Mercury in Capricorn is it's more committed. There's more commitments, that communication through more committed aspects of working together to step away from this outcasted behavior or outcasting each other in whatever way. Okay, and obviously Mercury is going to conjunct Juno as well, we can see up here. And with that, I think it's basically kind of what I said as relating to that semi-sextile, in that there's communication. This feels positive, but what I get, this positive aspect of Capricorn that relates to more of commitment or setting a foundation towards discussing like new partnerships, etc. But it feels very positive. It really does feel very positive towards discussing these new things now going forward. Okay, we're also going to have, Mars here in this, where are we? Mars here in this quintile to Saturn. What I feel like with this is new boundaries, new structures, new things, and taking action towards those things. And a lot of that is occurring behind the scenes. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. We're knowing it, it's visible. Those discussions may be occurring now with what I said before, but a lot of what is going on with that stuff is happening behind the scenes. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes to really push forward with that. New commitments, new foundation, but taking action towards those things, like I said, and it really does feel very positive. It feels very positive to me. Okay, so that's Friday the 2nd. Let's move on to Saturday the 3rd here. Okay, and this is when we're going to have this full moon. So let's... Okay. I'm being drawn to this here. So we're going to have... So there's this full moon in Cancer. However, the sun is going to be in sesqui-square to Uranus. Okay, I feel like there's a big okay, I'm not going to fully go into this yet, but there's surrounding change is what I feel with this. There's also basically like a triple conjunction happening here. It's not exact, but you have Venus here on the sun and also Mars in conjunct the sun too. Okay, they're all kind of together up here in this opposition to this moon. So they're playing a part in this full moon as well. What I get with that is there's a lot of people involved here to take action. It feels like towards new commitments, new whatever. What it feels like is letting go of the old in terms of which we have felt comfortable in doing. Okay, so it's releasing, it's basically releasing the comfort zone, but it's creating the new, and it feels very new, but it feels very positive. It's like we're going to begin to be comfortable with these new commitments, partnerships, that kind of stuff. It feels like countrywide in a certain way, we're going to begin to feel comfortable and like more at peace in that sense with a lot of this stuff. But with that Venus Mars, it's like there's a lot of people involved, and that's a lot of action that's being taken and is involved here to push this new foundation, or this new, it's not really a foundation, it feels like commitments. It feels like new commitments forward and releasing that which was more comfortable, but it feels more like illuminating a new level of comfort within those new commitments, etc. Okay, because Venus is also sesqui-square to Uranus as well on this day. So what I feel like, that Uranian energy honestly feels like that aspect of humanitarianism and change. It's like, it almost feels like, especially with that retrograde in Taurus, it's like finally, through these big shifts and changes that are needed to occur, it feels like finally we're beginning to see the value and worth in each other, in people, in progress, in change, that kind of stuff with that sesqui-square, right? It's something that can't be pushed under the rug any longer, and something in which direction we're moving towards and going in. With that Venus sesqui-square, what I feel is there's people that are really pushing that commitment to change, for progress, etc. This ultimately does feel very, very, very positive with this. Okay, also we're going to have here Mercury in semi-sextile here to Pluto. Okay, so what I feel is a bit, it's not harsh, but it feels like very stern, direct, forward communication regarding the progress that is being made. It feels very frank, straightforward, and just like almost like putting your foot down. But it's not negative. It's very much like, we're doing this, we're going forward, we're not going back to these old ways, and it's that kind of a thing in going forward with that. Okay, so that is the week, basically. Let me just bring it back to me. So let me just kind of maybe tune in to an overall energy. Honestly, the highlighting energy that I'm feeling for this week is really the full moon, is what I truly feel like in the progress. I feel like there's build up to that point through the beginning of the week, but I ultimately feel like it feels like an end goal is what it feels like. It feels like an end goal. Interesting, it's in Capricorn, whatever. But it feels like it's an end goal, okay, in terms of that occurring in that progress and change and new commitments and etc. It feels very good. It feels very positive, even if we may not be shown it that way, okay? Anyway, that's it for this week's video. If you made it this far in the video, please leave a purple heart in the comments so that I know you're a real one. And thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in next week's video. Take care, everyone.